There was a lot packed into this finale. It really feels like we ended in a drastically different spot than where we started with the first episode, which isn't a bad thing, but there was a dramatic shift in the story within the last few episodes. The slow character growth was over, and we got to really see the story lead closer to King of Monsters. In a way, it sorta reminds me of what Andor is doing, where we know what happens at the end, with the second season leading straight up to Rogue One, but we're taking the time to flesh out some of these new and familiar figures who become a part of a larger world. Diving straight into the episode, we pick up immediately where we left off last episode, with Kate being saved by Kygo in the Titan realm. I had forgotten about the one photograph from earlier in the season, so I was surprised when Kate recognized her grandmother, but she doesn't even mention her last name when introducing herself. Of course, there's a bit of shock that comes with this meeting. It feels like a very chaotic and emotional moment, where they're both concerned for other people, Kate for May, and Kygo hoping that Billy and Shaw are here too, because of the different way that time works there. And while saving the last name until a more emotional and focused scene later on, it does feel weird that Kate wouldn't immediately come out and reveal herself to be the granddaughter of this woman, unless she thought that Kygo was so jumbled up or unfocused that she wouldn't have been able to handle it in the moment. Kygo's discovery of Kate initially makes her very excited, because she assumes that she's part of a rescue party here to save her, because again, she thinks it's only been a few months, 57 days to be exact. She built up a signal, the one that they've been receiving on the surface at Monarch, and she's eager to get out of there. Eventually, May and Shaw find the two of them, and this became such a heartbreaking and emotional scene, and I'm really grateful that they slowed it down and gave the scene time to breathe, give the audience time to focus solely on this. Although May and Kate instantly reunite, it's not as easy for Shaw and Kygo. Shaw struggles to bring himself out, both because of his emotion discovering that Kygo's alive, and Kygo's inevitable shock of seeing how much time has passed. It hits her hard, and we see her use signs to comprehend the time displacement, which was something I found really fitting to her character. It was a feel-good moment for me getting to see Kygo actually alive and reunite with Shaw, but there's also a pain that comes with seeing how much time she's missed. Although it wouldn't have been possible without so much of the character work and build-up from the previous 7 episodes, this instantly became one of my favorite scenes in the entire season. Once the emotions fade away somewhat, the four of them start looking for a way to get back to their world, to which Shaw may have a plan. At some point, Kygo asks Kate about her father Hiroshi, Kygo's son, and it was interesting to see her try to put a positive spin on it all. Obviously, she doesn't want to drag him in the mud to her grandmother, who misses him dearly, but after everything that's happened this season, it definitely felt forced for Kate to have to defend her father. During this scene, I also started to really get concerned about how much time was passing on the surface. We were never really told the exact ratio, but Kygo saying that she was down here for 57 days, and 1959 to 2015 would make it 56 years in reality, so for every day they spend down here, a year is passing upward, which made me really worried to see how different the world would be when they get back. There are a few more short scenes throughout the episode. One where Shaw gets to catch Kygo up a bit about the new modern world, which only makes her feel more disconnected and out of place, and then another moment where Kygo reveals that she thinks this realm, which she calls Axis Mundi, is not even the Titan's realm, but rather one in between. Since we haven't really seen much of it yet, it's hard to tell if this is the same place that we see in Godzilla vs. Kong, or if this is an entirely new place. But we do know that eventually they'll find the real Titan realm, whether this is it or not. They make it back to the site that Shaw landed on during his mission, and something really felt off with Kygo during the first parts of it. I was sensing a lot of apprehension from her, and when she finally comes out and says that she wants to stay behind, it makes sense. She feels disconnected from this new world up there. Billy's gone, Hiroshi grew up without her, but her change in heart did feel like it happened very quickly. Their plan goes into action once a Titan arrives to get them through the portal, but I instantly had a feeling of dread that Lee was going to be stuck behind. I don't know whether to give myself credit for these gut feelings, or if they telegraphed them too easily, but it never bothered me being slightly predictable. This became a very stressful scene that felt extensively drawn out, with the Titan taking a long time to move towards Shaw as he reconnects the wiring. I was not expecting a full-out Titan fight with Godzilla, but I'm definitely not complaining either. As always, that fight was great to watch as Godzilla goes ham on the pterodactyl-looking creature. And then another heartbreaking moment as Shaw forces Kygo to let go of him as they start flying towards the portal. This was a very painful scene. He was without a doubt my favorite character, but part of it did feel a little forced. I don't think they did a good job of showing how Shaw holding on was preventing them from making it home. Obviously, the journey back would have been dangerous with the hatch open, but leaving him there did feel a bit unnecessary, almost like they were trying their best to write him out of the story, or maybe he'll show up in a future season, although that would basically be repeating the Kygo storyline all over again. There wasn't really any time given to Shaw's presumed death afterward, but it did hurt knowing that he was Kygo's familiar connection to the new world. They make it back to modern times, and there was an overwhelming amount of questions in this final scene. As they arrive back, there are people surrounding the platform waiting there, as if they knew they were coming back. We eventually learn that it's been 2 years, so there isn't anything drastically different. Kentaro, Tim, and Hiroshi are all there. We get an emotional mother and son reunion, and we eventually learn that they're at an Apex research facility, the same group responsible for Mechagodzilla down the line. We were told about another group besides Monarch that could help Kentaro and Hiroshi out, but they kept us in the dark for a long time. An alarm sounds, signaling an incoming Titan, to which we see is Kong, so I can only assume that they're on Skull Island right now. It does have a forest environment to it. It's a lot to wrap my head around, but to be honest, I still don't think I have completely, and the cliffhanger makes it seem certain that there's another season coming in the future. That was the main storyline in the episode, but Kentaro, still being on the surface, did have some screen time as well. We get a little explanation of what Hiroshi was doing in Africa. He didn't know about Godzilla specifically, but he was looking for a Titan to open a rift with so that he could prove his parents were right. I guess after G-Day he all of a sudden cared about their research and their mission, although that was never specifically stated, so that was something I felt was left out. We get a father and son moment between the two of them, where Hiroshi wants Kentaro to help him with his research, but it's still a little tense there. Back at Monarch, we see they do have the signals from Kaiko, but rather than investigate it, they feel they have more pressing matters on the surface. They're more concerned with stopping something they don't fully understand than save the 3 people stuck in the Titan realm. And thankfully, Tim realizes how misguided Monarch is and quits. The whole scenario with the signals was handled poorly to me. There was the short scene in the last episode, where they may have intended for it to be a tease, that there was someone alive in the realm. I really never understood anything they were saying in that moment until this episode, so at least for me, it didn't do a good job of teasing Kaiko's return, and instead was a very confusing moment that I think would have been better used in this final episode. Back to Kentaro and his family, Hiroshi ends up losing his wife, although she had me for a moment that she was going to forgive him. Tim finds Kentaro, and the two of them approach Hiroshi about the signals coming from the realm. A lot of this mainly just felt like a way to set up that final scene when they return, rather than do anything groundbreaking with these characters. It was all good enough, and a good way to disperse the scenes from the other group, but there wasn't anything memorable about it. What did you think of this Monarch episode? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like the video, and subscribe for coverage of the Monsterverse, and remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.